Yeah, I thought I'd just throw up a stream and go through some of my Manatrader matches from the weekend. Um, Not all necessarily the most interesting of games, but there were definitely some interesting spots. And I know there were a few people who were interested, so obviously the Manatraders match is a bit different because it's open decklist, so it does change the dynamic of the tournament quite a bit. Uh, the list that I ended up registering, if I can find it here. So I was playing lands. I've been trying a few different variants. Uh, the Elvish Reclaimer slots changed a lot. I'm still not sure if these are the best cards to this spot. But a lot of the slots in the deck are pretty locked in. A lot of the lands are. You can change a few lands, like Horizon Canopy. You could change for another fetch land. Fetch land's obviously working very well with Loam, just so that you have something to get back on your first Loam. The Ancient Tomb can be moved to the sideboard. You do want it in your list because it works well with Sphere of Resistance in the post-board games, and sometimes it allows you to make a 10-3 Marit Lage without any other acceleration. Other than that, most of the lands are pretty locked in. I did want to try and find room for a fourth Rishadan port somewhere, but I didn't want to cut the Horizon Canopy or the Ancient Tomb, so it just felt like I was just going to be reasonably happy to run with 3. You can cut the Ghost Quarter for the fourth port, but again I wanted to have Ghost Quarter because there are a handful of decks running around at the moment that have a few basic lands but not too many, so over a couple of turns you can just run them out of basics with Ghost Quarter, and against some decks this is just a 5th wasteland. 4 Mox is obviously locked in. This card is very good in the deck, obviously. 4 Crop Rotation, 4 Exploration, 4 Loam, also all pretty locked in. Exploration is just always your best one, turn 1 start, and it really allows the deck to function on gaining mana advantage and utilizing your utility lands like the Rishadan ports and stuff. Crop Rotation's obviously just a very good utility card. You're playing a toolbox of lands, so you need to be able to find them at some points. Some points instant speed is good. You can like instant speed like a Bajuka Bog or something, which really helps. This also can be used to sort of get your loams going as well, because you can like crop rotate away a land to get another green source, to then cast loam and get back the land you sacrificed, to sort of get things going that way. The 2 Elvish Reclaimers were the spot that I really wasn't too sure on. These cards were okay. I still don't know what these 2 spots are supposed to be. Reclaimer felt okay for most of the tournament, but I could definitely see exploring other options in this spot. I know some people have tried stuff like Lightning Bolt, or previously I played a Mana Bond and a 4th Valakut's Exploration. You could look to play something like Mulch. I know Mulch has been picking up a little bit in the lands community. 3 Punishing Fires, pretty standard. You don't want to overload on Punishing Fires, but you also want to make sure that you have them. Obviously a combination with Grove allows you to beat some of the go wide decks like Goblins and Elves, definitely helps against those, and is also good against stuff like Delver. 2 Sylvan Library. Sylvan Library is okay, but your life total is a precious resource, and you don't really have a way to gain any life outside of your opponents playing Swords to Plowshares. So Sylvan Library is okay. You play 2, you can often play it on turn 1 with like playing a land and playing a Mox into a Sylvan Library, allows you to recoup some of the cards from playing the Mox. But you also don't have too many ways in your deck to reset the library. In this list, you're only playing the 2 fetches, the Windswept Heath and the Wooded Foothills. You have the 4 Crop Rotations and the 2 Reclaimers, and that's it really. You can somewhat free yourself from being locked under library with Valakut Exploration. You have to order things properly, which definitely messed up a few times during the tournament, but it's definitely a way to get out from it. Overall, I think the main deck is pretty good. Again, I'm not sure on these 2 slots. There could be other cards. Reclaimers are fine as well. And you can mess around with the lands slightly, but for the most part, I like 3 Dark Depths, 4 Stage. I kind of wanted to find room for another port, I could also see cutting a Reclaimer just to be the fourth port. 34 or 35 lands isn't too much different, but overall I was pretty happy with the main deck. Moving to the sideboard, there's two Pyroblasts. Could be a Pyroblast and a Red Blast. I don't think it matters too much. People aren't really going to be surgicaling your Pyroblast in this. Again, like when you're playing lands, they're going to be going after important stuff like your Loams or your Punishing Fires. These just help with the Delver matchup and the Snow matchup. Getting your Loam Force Negation is like such a huge game and puts you so far behind that being able to fight over it with your Pyroblast is definitely really important. This also gives you some game against something like Urza Echoes, or whatever Narset, Days Undoing stuff people are trying to do. 3 choke, I think 3 choke is pretty necessary. I tried playing 4 at one point, but felt like there was just too many cards. Against like the snow control decks, you're bringing in a lot of cards, so having 4 chokes just feels like a lot, because you will cut lands in the post-board matchups, because obviously you're playing so many lands and only so many spells. But you don't want to like overload on having like 3 mana enchantments between choke and Valak exploration post-board games. 2 Tireless Tracker. Tireless Tracker's okay. It's obviously good against the slower, grindier decks. Not great against the other aggressive decks. It gives you a way to win under Blood Moon, because you can cast this off of the basic forest or the Mox Diamonds. Also, you can then use the clues to try and dig towards like your Force of Vigors or your removal spells for a Magus of the Moon. Force of Vigor is a pretty big addition to this deck from Modern Horizons. It allows you to beat Blood Moon decks, where otherwise it would be a pretty bad matchup previously. It allows you to get out from under Back to Basics, all sorts of stuff. It comes in a lot of matchups. It beats Leyline or Rest in Peace, which is not the be-all end-all for the deck, but it's pretty bad. Pretty tough to beat. Force Sphere of Resistance is pretty standard at this point, I think. You need something to try and beat the combo decks, because outside of Sphere, you're not very good against them. So you kind of just need Force Sphere. And the Null Rod, there's a tick up in Artifact decks at the moment, so I preferred the Null Rod to something like a Thorn. Just went from there. So that was my list that I played. Going into the tournament, I wasn't feeling too confident. I basically couldn't find a deck that I wanted to play, so I just kept playing lands.